Nitric acid. Remelted scrap silver 99.9%. Nitric acid flask 99.9%. You definitely need a place with ventilation. Measure the required amount of nitric acid NO2 using a measuring cylinder. It is desirable to take a little more acid than required by the reaction. Pour the nitric acid into the flask. Add metallic remelted scrap silver 99.9% metal. We observe a substitution reaction. 2NO3 plus 2Ag equals 2AgNO3 plus NO2 plus H2O. Nitric acid salt of silver has no color, but we still see that the solution is slightly colored in green-blue color. The reason for this is the existing impurities of copper in the alloy. Copper salts have just such shades. The reaction is exothermic, the solution heats up, and the process speeds up. The appearing orange gas is poisonous nitrogen oxide NO2. It is heavier than air, so it is mainly collected in the flask and is not particularly eager to get out of it, sometimes rolling down the sides of the flask. The reaction becomes more and more intense. The solution boils on its own. To prevent the solution from splashing on our faces, carefully, using tongs, immerse the flask in a container of cold water. You don't want to cool it too much, just control it. During the reaction, we add a little acid. If the silver stops dissolving, the excess acid can be easily evaporated in the final step. Then the reaction slows down, and we put the flask on an electric stove. Waiting for the silver to dissolve. 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 The silver is dissolved. Take the flask off the stove. Be careful. Filter the resulting solution with a filter for varnishes and paints. Rinse off the remaining crystals with water. In a super pot, we evaporate the concentrated solution. A white salt with water in crystals and excess nitric acid is formed. Continue heating on the stove, also at a gas burner. Heat until our white powder is completely melted. This is how we got rid of the acid and water residue. In this way, we got rid of acid and water residues. The resulting salt will need to be dissolved once again with distilled water and carefully evaporated to the state of white salt. Do not melt the salt a second time. Well heated without a gas burner. Cool down and carefully collect. Scrape the resulting white salt of silver nitrate NO2 with a spatula.
Today we're preparing reagents for chrome plating. For this, we'll need 3 flasks. 1, 2, 3. First flask modifier consists of silver nitrate. Here it is in a jar. And ammonia. Let's get started. We need to weigh. We take our flask and weigh out about 6 grams of silver nitrate.
Берем наш нитрат.
Pour it over the 6 grams gently. Six grams of silver nitrate. After, add distilled water to the same flask to dissolve our silver nitrate. Adding distilled water. Here's our water. Now I'm going to get some ammonia and add ammonia to the flask. Add approximately 11 to 11.5 milliliters of ammonia. You can see by the marks. We can see that there's a precipitate.
Появился осадок.
On the next addition of ammonia, a complex will form and the precipitate should dissolve. Ammonia dissolved. We need to add another 3 milliliters of ammonia. Adding. That's it. No more stinky ammonia. And that's the end of the MA flask. Now, we're gonna bring the solution to the mark. I'll show you. All topped up with distilled water. Mix thoroughly with a clean stick. It is necessary to wipe or rinse the wand well. Let's move on to component modifier. We take 6 grams of sodium hydroxide. Everything is very simple. Put the flask on the scale and calibrate it. Take sodium *** ing hydroxide. and add 6 grams to the flask. Be careful not to spill sodium hydroxide anywhere. Dissolve clothes and eyes like acid. Cover tight.
Вот так он
This is
выглядит.
how it looks. Add distilled water. There's a little more water, but that's okay. Stir with a stick until dissolved. A silver stick can be immersed in lye. And from the lye, it can be dipped into a 3 flask. But you can't put 3 flasks into one flask. You'll get a precipitate. It is necessary to mix everything well, so that at the bottom all the grains we have dissolved. There are lumps of sodium hydroxide left at the bottom. They will stand for a bit and we will stir them again later on. So we turn the scale back on and now we have to. 6.2 grams of glucose monohydrate. Poured 6.2 grams of glucose monohydrate. If you have poured a little more or a little less, it is not a big deal. Add a little distilled water. We need to get the glucose well dissolved. Add 1 milliliter of formalin to the same flask. One milliliter of formalin. Sodium thiosulfate retarder must be added. NO2. Added. Mix well. And add distilled water. Mix the modifier B once again, because we had some sodium hydroxide particles in there. Ready. That's it. We've got 3 flasks. I'll be putting them in place now. Now, you can see the flask seats. All the flasks are signed. Letters. Letters. I'm gonna hook up the guns now. I'll take some test samples. And we're going to start testing these solutions. What's the point? We have solutions in flasks. I took a test plate. I'm gonna show you the chrome gun. It's a chrome gun. It has 3 tubes going into it for solutions and air. It's a water gun. When working with chrome plating, you should definitely turn on the hood or be in a heavily ventilated area. The point of gun customization is to get fluid out of all the flasks. So first we just check. Then we turn off the air, close to the 3 hoses, and see which hose was left open. Now we left the hose from the MA flask open. Level the mortar supply. Look, the mortar's not coming out. It's easy. Leave these 2 hoses closed. Add air and squeeze until the solution is flowing. Turn off the air and check again. Now try connecting each flask in turn, turning off the supply from the other 2 flasks. The test is over. Now I'm turning on the ventilation hood. Remove the protective foil from the plate. Next we do surface wettability. We have a pre-activator solution. Coffee, vinegar, citric acid, distilled water. Wetting the plate with a damp sponge and pre-activator. Now the surface is wettable. Rinse off with water. Take the activator. The activator is tin dichloride and hydrochloric acid. Apply. Hold for 1 minute under the activator. You can see that the entire surface has become wettable. It doesn't have air bubbles on it. Rinse liberally with water. Now we'll start coating the plate with chrome from the gun. Chemical metallization.